Okay, you guys, so tonight's a fairly important homework piece. We're talking about InText Citation as well as the Works Cited page. So just citation of a researched document where you're citing your sources. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to review the basics of InText Citation and a Works Cited page. In class with the student teacher, Ms. Young, you did go over MLA citation and what it looks like to do some InText citation. And you've been asked in your research for the debates to really be paying attention to where you're getting your information from and cataloging that in your debate qualifier. So hopefully you kept all of those materials and you can find all of the information from its original source. You can also use the walls from your small groups because I haven't archived or deleted those on Edmodo yet, and those are available for you to use to access some of your sources, because I know you pasted a lot of links and had a lot of conversations with individuals on those walls, so use that as a resource. Okay, so what is InText citation? Well, whenever you're using information that's not your own, whether you're quoting it directly or summarizing or paraphrasing it, you need to be citing those sources. Give credit to whoever you stole it from. And I'm going to use the negative connotative word stole because, or stealing something, because these are facts and figures that someone put a lot of hard energy and effort into obtaining and analyzing that you then used in your debate or now in your essay. So you need to give credit to the people that worked so hard to collect all of that information. So summary versus paraphrasing, just a real quick refresher. As far as a summary is concerned, it should be half the length of the original. We worked on this at the beginning of the school year. You're not only changing the words, but you're keeping only the key information or parts of information. That's why you're limiting it down to half the size of the original. And when you summarize, you should be citing that source. Paraphrasing is a little bit different. This is where it's the same length as the original. You're keeping all of the original information, but you're changing it into your own choice of words, and this should also be cited. So regardless of if you're summarizing or paraphrasing, you need to cite the source. And I know that might be different than maybe what you've learned previously. It doesn't matter if you put it in your own words. It's still research and information that you obtained from someone else. Okay, so I know we've previously talked about this, but I really want it to stick. So when you use a direct quote, notice that we've got some quotation marks around the direct quote. So that means anything that you're taking from an article or website or whatever that is the direct information. You haven't changed it into your own words. You're using word for word whatever you found in that article. You're going to cite it, and you're going to use InText citation, or what I told you also can be known as parenthetical citation. Known that way because you're using parentheses, but you'll notice that you'll use the citation inside the parentheses and then a period at the end. If you're summarizing information, again, citation at the end. If you're paraphrasing information, again, citation at the end. You'll also notice you have a period at the end of all of these sentences or parentheses. So this is called MLA citation. Again, you talked about this previous to winter break with Ms. Young, and I have included that at the bottom of tonight's tutorial if you'd like to go back and refresh yourself on any of that information. So, what happens if you don't really want to use these short, simple little in-text citations at the end of the sentence? Well, you can get rid of the parenthesis, but only if you use the author's name or the title of the article in the actual sentence. Again, giving credit to wherever you got it from. So in this example sentence, here you go. And again, this is totally a made-up sentence, so don't quote me on it. In a survey conducted by Edutopia, author Gary Finkelman notes that 78% of students believe that a school uniform infringes on basic student rights. So you're listing the author here. You also are listing what website you got it from by labeling Edutopia. So if you got something from CNN and you want to make sure that we know it's a credible site, maybe you say, according to CNN and the author so-and-so. So you can include it both ways. But by doing this, you don't have to include the parenthesis citation at the end of the sentence. If there is a page number that should be listed, it needs to go in parentheses at the end of the quoted material. So the only thing you're getting rid of there is the author's name or the title of the article at the end of the sentence. But if you actually do have a page number, it would go right there. Okay, so you'd put the parentheses and just put the page number. So if you literally were reading an article on a website and you had to click to go to page 2, then you should include that, whether it was from page 1 or page 2 in your document. Okay. Now, moving on to the works cited page. So there's two types of citations that are going to be required for your essay on your persuasive debate topic. So you have to do the in-text citation, but then you're going to give me all the rest of the information on your works cited page. So the works cited page is going to hold all of the information needed for the reader, that's me, to go back possibly and get more information on your topic. So let's say I was super interested in everything I learned about clean coal, and I wanted to know more. If I went to your works cited page, I could go and reference and research and read all of the articles that you read to create your debate and your essay. So that's what the purpose of a works cited page is for. So the works cited page should be its own page at the end of the document. So you're sitting at the computers next to the library, you're typing away. Your research paper ends up being 3 pages. You're done typing. Now you need to do your works cited page. Go up to the top, click on enter new or new page, and add a completely new page. Even if there's room on the bottom of the 3rd page, no. Add a new page. It is its own separate page. I can't say that enough. Before you press print, please let me come look at your document so that I can see that it is in fact, that it has a works cited page, number 1, and number 2, that the works cited page is on its own page at the end of the document. That doesn't mean you have to create a separate piece or a separate document. It just means that it's on its own page at the very, very end. Label the works cited page, and it should be at the center and top of the page. So look at my example here. Again, remember too, in MLA format, that I would like everything to be Times New Roman, 12-point font, double-spaced. And a part of that is title and centering the title and all that too. That still should be 12-point font, double-spaced. Okay, now, this gets a little tricky. Now, when you're writing this information, you're going to indent the second and any subsequent or additional lines of that citation. This is called a hanging indent. So forget everything you've learned previously about indenting your paragraphs. I'm asking you to do practically the opposite. And I'm going to show you what that means in a minute. This is called a hanging indent. But you're going to indent the second line for each entry. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. This is something new that they've added to MLA, and this is why sometimes people get so frustrated with MLA and APA styling, is that there's constant changes and updating to what is being required. The English language is constantly changing. As you know, certain words get added to the dictionary all the time. Words that people are like, what? Why is that a word? Bootylicious is a prime example of that. And just like adding new words to the dictionary, there are new laws and grammar rules all the time. So this is brand new. Writers are no longer required to provide URLs or web addresses to your citation entry. Previously, all of my students in the past years have had to type out these super huge long web addresses on their citations in the works cited page. You're no longer required to do that. Woohoo! Okay. So, and then finally, all entries should be listed alphabetically by author's last name or title if the author isn't listed. So, that's a lot of information. What does it look like? Well, here is an example page. Oh, this is all the information you're going to need. Sorry, I was ahead of myself. You're going to need to know the author. If the author isn't listed, fine. You need to know the title of the article. That should be in quotation marks. You need to know the title of the website. You need to know the publishing information, if at all possible, and maybe the date it was published, so the date it was put online. You need to be able to identify that you got it from the web just simply by saying web, which is silly, I know. And you need to know the date that you accessed the material. So you might have to go back to your Edmodo small groups and see when you access those links. Now you're going to put a period in between all of these. Again, I'll show you what I mean in a minute. And don't forget that wacky hanging indent. And the alphabetizing everything is pretty important as well. Okay, so here's our example. Again, all of this is made up information, so please don't go searching for it. Okay, so we've got this first entry by Mark Bernstein. You'll notice that it is author's last name first, then first name. You'll notice that there's a period in between all of the different pieces. You'll notice that it says web after the 16th of August, and then at the very, very end you have your date of online access. Here's another entry. Again, a lot of the same situations. You'll see that both of these are pieces from the web. And then finally, we have an article from eHow that had no author listed, so we're using the title here. So again, you'll notice everything is alphabetized, BFH, and again, I've got an author's last name here, and then I've got this title down here because an author wasn't listed. Now you'll notice I didn't put anything like not NA for not applicable or any of that stuff. You just list whatever you can find, whatever you have, and that's fine. You don't have to put a 0, you don't have to say not available, no author listed. I don't need any of that. Just if it's not there, don't include it. Just include whatever information you do have. That was a lot. Okay, so now you're finished. Please don't forget to answer the digital portion, and I will check your notes tomorrow. Again, if you're super confused, I have included the review MLA citation that you did before winter break at the bottom of this tutorial, and I would also really recommend using Purdue OWL as a resource on MLA citation, and I've included that link down at the bottom as well. Okay, I'll see you in class tomorrow. Sorry guys, this was a longer video, but the last couple of videos we've had have been shorter, so it all equals out in the end. Okay, see you tomorrow.